Well, nice to have you with us as we kick off a broadcast day here on the great SiriusXM 82. Nice to have you aboard on this busy Monday afternoon, the 16th day of April, the year 2018. Eddie Erickson, of course, with Colin Schmeling and our good buddy Billy Zimmerman off to the pepperoni pie. Steve Torrey breaking down Rob Gronkowski missing some dopey workout and he's going to retire. Well, no, not today on this radio program. Nice to have you with us at 888 Mad Dog 6. That's your two-way sports talk telephone number on this Monday afternoon as we take you home here and talk about what's on your mind on this after a busy weekend with a lot of activity, a lot of bad weather, and a lot of games to analyze and fun things to have fun with. And we'll do that in the course of the next 3 or 4 hours here on our radio program. We're live today in Secaucus because of the cancellation of the Red Sox and the Orioles this morning, which meant that we did TV here today. Because Sirius gave up our TV studio, baseball-wise, and maybe the Jamie Foxx showed up for 10 minutes. Whoever got it, we didn't get it ourselves, so we ventured over here to finish up and do a halfway decent job as we chat to you about what's going on this Monday afternoon. We'll start, of course, with the Cavaliers. They are the story of the weekend, and what happened to them, of course, against Indiana. They are the story. It's nothing else at the moment in hockey, the NBA, or in football, or anything else. Baseball, too, with all the bad weather. The story is Cleveland and how they respond. First off, it's hard to believe that he lost a first round playoff game. LeBron never does that, and he never ever loses the first game of a first round playoff series. And that's what he did, of course, on Sunday afternoon in Indiana. That had a very good regular season against the Cavaliers this year, where they won 4 consecutive games and played very well against the Cavs. Walked into Cleveland yesterday and basically from the get-go buried them. 8-4, 12-4, 17-5, and away we go. And they never really, turned around and looked behind them. All right, 7-point deficit it got to in the fourth quarter. But Indiana just did a superb job and, really ran all over the Cavs. They played excellent defense. Oladipo had a very, very good ball game. He had 30-something points. Stevenson gets motivated to play LeBron. Now, he's erratic, and he can hurt you as much as he helps you. But yesterday he scored in double figures, and if nothing else, his presence gave Indiana a little confidence. And the Pacers won the game going away, 98-80, and take a 1-0 lead in that best-of-7 series in the NBA first round in the Eastern Conference. And they really kind of perplexed the Cavaliers from start to finish. And we'll see what that means now here in the big picture. I don't know yet what it means. It might be a blip on the screen. I think anybody trying to predict that it means anything more than that's a little hasty. So I'm not going to sit there and say this means now that the Cavs are dead in this first round. The NBA better hope not. I'll tell you that. But I'm not sure if I'm ready to go that far. But it's a cautionary tale now as far as Cleveland is concerned. They haven't played well really all year long. They've been up and down, sporadic, obviously inconsistent. They really have not put together a good stretch of games. A little streak after their trade that they made in the middle of the year, and they played pretty well for a while, but overall, they have not really done anything all year long from a consistent standpoint. Right after the All-Star break, they played very poorly, played a little better at the end of the year, beating Toronto twice at home and what have you, but still underachieved. And despite the fact that LeBron played 82 games, I'm not sure if that means anything in the big picture, and they played Indiana. We knew they'd be a little issue with the Pacers in the first round. We knew that losing that game to Philadelphia last week in Philadelphia, which gave the 76ers the 3rd seed and pushed Cleveland back to the 4th seed, which as a result made the Sixers get a break and get Miami, a game team, but not a very good one, in round 1. And that, of course, then gave the Cavaliers the unenviable task of having to deal with the Pacers in the 4 or 5 series, and then Toronto after that. And right out of the boot, it comes home to roost. Just not a good performance at all as far as Cleveland is concerned. Now, again, big picture, I don't know what it quite means. I really don't. I think it would be a little drastic to say that, in fact, you think now that this means that they're in any kind of trouble in this series. They need to win the next game. But even if they lost the next one, would you be shocked if they walked in Indiana and won a couple of games against the Pacers at Conseco? You wouldn't be shocked if they did that. The Bulls had a 2-0 lead on the Celtics last year after the first 2 games, and Celtics came back to win 4 in a row. So you would not be shocked So I don't think you could be shocked if the Cavaliers were able to, even if they lost tomorrow night, if they were able, or if they play, it's either tomorrow night or Wednesday. It might be Wednesday. If they went to Indiana over the weekend and won a couple games. I don't think anybody would be shocked one way or the other if that occurred. So I'm not going to sit there and even write them off after they lose, if they do lose game 2. Game 3 is a different story. But even if they lose game 2, I would not be shocked if they came out and won the 2 games in Indiana. Oladipo's a good player. I saw Indiana play late in the year. I saw them play in Sacramento, and I was impressed with them. They played hard that game against the Kings for whatever the reason. You know about Miles Turner. He's an excellent player. Bogdanovich is a good player. He can score. I mean, they got some players on this team. I mean, that's all there is to it. Nate McMillan's done a very, very good job. They can shoot. They can shoot threes. They play good defense. And yesterday, they were a major pain in the neck. And obviously they put them, Sabonis is not terrible. I mean, they did a good job. And right now, to sit there and say that Cleveland is going to get out of the Eastern Conference, you're going to say that a little nervously, is how you're going to say that. And to sit there and say that they are vulnerable, I think that's fair to say. I mean, they have been vulnerable all year. One of these years they're going to lose in a postseason series. He has been to 7 consecutive finals. I mean, one of these years they're going to lose in the Eastern Conference before they get to the NBA final. I know LeBron kind of made fun of the idea. Why me nervous? I was down 3-1 to the Warriors 2 years ago, and he won 2 games on the road to win the championship. So I have seen it all. He has. So he does get the benefit of the doubt on that. And he does have a lot of confidence. I understand that. He's earned it. So you can't sit there and say that he should be shaking in his boots. But it is a strong message that Indiana showed yesterday in winning that opening game there against the Cavs in Cleveland. That's a strong message. A team that, needed to establish its credentials off a good regular season against Cleveland. And they did that right from the get-go. They never blinked in this game. Right from the get-go in this game. Right from the start. And that is something that we have to keep ourselves on top of now as this series moves along. And this is going to be must-watch to see how the Cavs handle this. Now, again, I would not write them off under any circumstances. We have seen the Cavaliers get through out of these situations many a time. He is the best player in the sport. We all know that. So to sit there and write Cleveland off, do that at your own peril and I'm not going to. So do that at your own peril. They play the second game. They play that Wednesday. They play then on the 20th and then on the 22nd. So they will play, let's see, what's today's date? Today is the 16th. So they play Friday night and then they play Sunday night. And right now you have to be a little concerned here on how Cleveland looked. As far as the rest of the first round, I mean, listen, the games are better than I thought they would be. Even Minnesota was competitive against the Rockets, more than a little competitive, very competitive. Road teams won. I mean, Portland won. New Orleans won in Portland. Indiana won. Road teams were relatively fairly competitive. The Bucks could have won. The Wizards could have won. I mean, Minnesota was right there in that series. Philadelphia led at the half. I mean, listen, now the only team that wasn't competitive is San Antonio. They were not competitive, but everybody else was relatively competitive in this first row of games on this first weekend. Now, you were kind of, I'd be curious to see what the ratings were because of the idea that this first weekend, there was nothing to do yesterday afternoon if you lived anywhere in frozen America. I mean, there was nothing. I mean, what were you going to do? I mean, you froze. It was 39 degrees where I was. I mean, I had the fireplace on April 15th. Think about that for a minute. So wherever you were, you probably did the same thing. The weather has been that depressing. So maybe you sat there and watched. I watched a lot of the Bucks. I watched a lot of the Cavs. I watched a lot of Utah. I was on top of the Houston game for a while. I had the hockey on. I even watched a little of the golf. So I was on top of the sports world. And the only thing I didn't see at all, the one game I didn't see a second of was the Trailblazers and the Pelicans. That's the one game that I did not see, and they had a 14-point lead, New Orleans. There was 6:02 to go, and had to hang on for dear life, but a 14-point lead in New Orleans, in Portland there on Saturday night, and the Pelicans with Anthony Davis get the win. So other than that, the games for the most part this weekend were pretty good. Wizards had a chance to not the Wizards, the T-Wolves had a chance to tie at the end of the game last night. Harden was phenomenal. He had 40-something points. Chance to tie, though, Minnesota did. against the Rockets last night. Wizards, of course, were competitive down the stretch against Toronto. That game was anybody's game with 6 to 8 minutes to go. You know about the Bucks, who, listen, could have won against the Celtics, lost in overtime. I mean, for the most part, most of the games are competitive except the Spurs. Everything else was competitive in this first round of the NBA playoffs. Now, the one thing I would say is, is that there's so many playoff games to watch, and there is just so many games that, on a day in, day out basis, and there's so many rounds to get involved, emotionally that quickly with that many games can take a lot out of you. So if you didn't sit there and watch the first couple games, I don't blame you on that, because it is very, very difficult to get that wrapped up in it right out of the gate. There's a lot of games, and there's a lot of rounds. I mean, think about it. The baseball playoffs go 1 month. The NFL playoffs go 1 month. The NHL and the NBA playoffs go, 2 months. It's too long. There are too many games. There's too many rounds. It's 4 rounds of best of 7s. They made a terrible mistake when they got off the best of 5s a few years ago. They should have kept with the best of 5 and put some drama in the first round that you need. You'd have a great drama now with Cleveland if this is a best of first round. There's a best of 5 first round was fun. No longer do you have that. And listen, this is a situation right now that, the story of the first round is going to be the Cavs. But if it was the best of 5, you really have something going. You really would. Now, tonight, is it imperative for Philadelphia? No. Is it imperative for Golden State to watch that game? No. No, it's not. No, it's not. Not imperative. But they had two good days, though. To be fair, they had 2 good days right out of the gate in the NBA playoffs. Every game except the first one was close. Can't ask for more than that. Quarter after the hour, we continue. Mad Dog.